everyone, Axe here. Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the new Prydwen tier list for October 2024 and for the 2.6 update. Now, I looked at a bit at this tier list, and all I can say is that this is going to piss a lot of people off, and it is going to probably cause a stir on Reddit, as it always does. So, without further ado, let's just get into it. So, here's the tier list. So they made a few changes right off the bat, which we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to talk about Acheron moving down to tier 0.5, because I feel like that's a pretty important thing people are going to care about. So let's read what they have to say. Acheron down from tier 0 to tier 0.5. Despite the release of Jiao Cho, who made Acron much better, when comparing Acron teams to Fei Xiao teams, Acron falls a bit short. To be clear, Acron isn't weak. But Fei Xiao has proven she's on another level, not in just one, but multiple teams, allowing her to clear MLC stages effortlessly. Even without her best support, Robin, you can still use Bronya. If you don't have Topaz, you can use Mose or Hunt March. Acron has options as well, but those options aren't as potent as Fei Xiao. On the top end, her best team alongside Jiao Cho can't reach the heights Acron can, and on the lower end, Fei Xiao only presses the advantage. Yeah, I completely agree. Topaz helps out teams for her a lot, but you can also use Hunt Mose in March. If you don't have Acron on if you don't have Jiao Cho on an Acron team, you're just going to be missing out just 100%. Like, she's just not going to function as well. But for Topaz, if you don't have her, that's not going to be a problem on a Fei Xiao team. In the future, when or if Acron receives more teammates, we feel her team ceiling and floor can increase. But currently, Fei Xiao has won the battle of supremacy and will be the sole 2-0 for now. Yeah, I 100% saw this coming. I do think that Fei Xiao just dominates the game, man. Acron is not on her level at all. She's just pretty much better across the board if you think about it. If you want to take an E0 or S0, Fei Xiao absolutely wins, because Fei Xiao actually has a good free-to-play light cone in the form of cruising of the Stellar Sea. Acron does not have that luxury. Acron is just straight up worse E0 S0. And besides, that is their criteria. I don't think she ever deserved to be up there without her light cone. If she had her light cone, yeah, she's tier 0. If she doesn't, no, absolutely not. And the thing is, the difference between both their light cones, with versus without light cone, the damage difference is about the same. But the thing is, Fei Xiao has a lot more teammates that she can actually work well with and just still do her job. Acron needs her stacks, but everyone can follow-up attack on those teams. So it's not that big of an issue, but it's a bigger issue with Acron. So I think that's really what's holding her back. And the thing is, I don't think Acheron's ever going to get better, and here's why. We already have Jiao Cho, so that's one Nihility. If they give her a second Nihility, which I don't think they're going to, but if they did, that would make most of her E2 useless. A main reason that people pull the E2 is to use a Harmony unit with her. So if they just make another Nihility as good with Acheron, then that just doesn't make sense anymore. Do you see what I'm saying here? And then stuff like Gallagher and Aventurine, I don't think those are going to get replaced, to be honest. At least not anytime soon, because, you know, there's Sustains. Sustains usually last a pretty long time. So I think her being down here, I think, is valid. But what's funny is her and the difference between an Acheron and a Clara is half a tier. Oh, God, we're not going to be laughing for much longer, though. Because next we have Jinglu down from tier 1 to tier 1.5. Compared to other damage dealers, Jinglu didn't receive any new teammates that would help her perform at a higher level for quite some time. I want to make a little correction. It is no teammates. The only thing that she's gotten that's really worked well with her is Ron May. But everybody wants Ron May, and she's kind of stuck to break right now. Robin is fine, but it's just not as good. That's the problem. It just doesn't synergize as well as with her as compared to other units. She doesn't have anything just for her. That's basically her problem. Furthermore, hitting for 200k was insane back in the day, but when playing the newer and shinier damage dealers, seeing those numbers makes you think you built the character wrong. Because of this, her performance at MLC continues to drop, as her damage output simply isn't enough to deal with the ever-increasing difficulty of MLC. I don't think bullet sponging is necessarily hard content. But that's what Hoyoverse thinks. They do this with Genshin Impact, they've been doing this with Honkai Star Rail now. The next boss in MLC has like 5 million HP. We have one with like 3 million HP now. And, you know, I'm sure by the time we hit 4.0, we're going to have 10 million HP bosses. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised because it doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon. And you think Jinglu being not as good as she was now is bad? Wait till you see what's going to happen to Acheron. Wait till you see what's going to happen to Fei Xiao. Wait till you see what's going to happen to Firefly. If one of what was once the best unit in the game can fall to tier 1.5, I don't even want to imagine what 3.0 is like. I've already pretty much planned that I'm skipping pretty much everything at 3.0 unless it benefits Jinglu, and I'm going to go for E6. That's what I feel like I have to do at this point. Because of how bad the fucking power creep is. It's not even about heart, it's just in general, man. It's like, why would I pull a unit when I know damn well they're going to get power creep in 4 patches? Especially if they're a dude. Like, come on, man. It's ridiculous. You guys can actually make engaging contests that just make everything a bullet sponge and make, oh, this character's X plus better. X character plus this and this and this equals better. So just blatant power creep. For example, Lingshan Gallagher, even though Gallagher didn't get replaced. Just Aventurine is basically Claria and Japard put together. Fei Xiao is just better doctor ratio. You know what I mean? Like, they don't put any innovation on these units. And I don't like that at all. Anyways, I'm going to move on now. Zila, tier 1.5 to T2. The HP of enemies continues to increase with every new phase, and even the well-geared Zilas are starting to struggle to continuously trigger resurgence. Yeah, as soon as they started adding, like, just stupid amounts of HP on, like, especially, like, the little trash mobs, yeah, she just fell off. It is what it is. The enemies we're fighting recently in MLC, mostly the Pentaconi ones, also don't help with the core mechanic of Zila, and both her usage rate and ad performance reflect that, so we've decided to drop her down half a tier. Yeah, I get that. It makes me sad, because, like, all of these units on this list, except for Acron, they're mostly just 1.x units. You want to know what's crazy? Again, like I said earlier, when we get 3.x, we get those insane units, the 2.x ones are going to fall off, and then the cycle's just going to continue. I guarantee you at some point, power creep is going to kill the game. I wouldn't be surprised. Apparently there's a lot of power creep in Honkai Impact 3rd. Wouldn't be surprised that's one of the reasons it's dead. But anyways, we're just going to move on. Poor Zila. Kafka and Black Swan. Oh god, another one bites the dust. Life is not good for dot teams. Kafka and Black Swan's damage output isn't good enough anymore, and the dot procs tickle the enemy rather than doing any meaningful damage. This leads to a big drop in both performance use and usage rates in the last few phases, as there are simply better options to run. They really need dedicated DOT support to make them viable again. Hoyo, please make DOT great again. We beg you. Yeah, it's a thing, because Ron May was supposed to be the DOT support. She was. Anyone who wants to say, oh, she's a break support. Sure, she might be good on break teams, but her Lycone and her damage percent can't be used. So, what's the point? Anyways, my point is, she was supposed to be that for dot, but she just wasn't enough for DOT. And the thing is, people don't really seem to realize this yet. If anybody's going to get replaced on a DOT team, it's going to be Kafka. I'm going to show you guys Kafka's stats. If the target is currently receiving DOT, all DOTs currently placed on the enemy produce damage equal to 75% of their original damage. If this character came out today, she would not have 75. She would have like maybe 120. That's the thing, because she's definitely going to replace. As popular as she is, I don't think she's going to be even like relevant for much longer. And she's still okay. She's decent, I guess. She can still clear, but it's going to be a lot harder. It really just sucks. Zhuyi and Luca down to tier 3. Both shine when the MLC phase features enemies matching their weakness and a buff which benefits them. Outside of a strong phase here and there, they routinely fade into obscurity shortly after. This fits our definition of niche category to a T. Because of this, we feel both characters are more accurately placed not above the meta line, but at the top of the niche line. Yeah, that's fair. I do think when all the stars align, Luca is actually quite good. He's like mini Boot Hill. Shui, I can't speak on too much because I don't have her built. But I've seen some really good Shui's, and I do think she could definitely pop off when the settings is right. A Fire Trailblazer down to tier 5. Outside of some very niche cases in Acheron teams, the fire version in the MC sees very little play. Part of this is losing battle is against a much stronger and popular imaginary version, and part of it is lack of solid niche. Because of this, we're dropping him to the Forgotten tier. Yeah, that's fair. Just Harmony MC is so broken. Nobody's using the fire one. Unless they're doing some sort of meme build. Ah, Sparkle down to tier 1. I predicted this. I said Sparkle was going to fall off, and she did. I knew it, dude. Hypercarry just hasn't been it. Similar to DOT, the Hypercarry archetype struggles to compete with break and follow-up attack in the current meta. From the top damage dealers, Sparkle is mainly paired with Yunli and Acron. Even then, she can be replaced. Yeah, she's good on Yunli teams, but you can run Tengyun. She's good on Acron teams, but you can run Pella or Robin if you're going to run a Harmony unit on her. And outside of them, none of the characters she's played with are considered meta, as they struggle to perform well in MLC. She performs well with Imbibitor Lune. I do want to see what the usage rate of Dill is in this current MLC, because I know it's not horrible. Oh dear. Oh no. Never mind, I stand corrected. That was not as good as I thought it was. That kind of sucks. Okay. His usage rate was actually pretty high last time I checked. Let's see, how's he performing in terms of this? 8, you know, that's not bad. It's okay. It still clears pretty well and pretty consistently. Clara having a faster average cycle is really funny though. Anyways, we're just gonna move on from Dill and Sparkle. You know, I'm just saying, man. Maybe on the 8th day we might get a hypercarry support. You know, who knows? Oh, Yukong down to tier 5. This hurts me. Yukong who? Jokes aside, Yukong simply has no place in the current meta, and even Bibber Lune doesn't use her anymore. So we've decided to drop her to the Forgotten tier. This just makes me sad because I love Yukong as a character. I think she's really hot. But just her having no use just kind of makes me sad. If they made her Roaring Bowstrings so they would proc on her turn, or they would go off on her turn, instead of the enemy's turn, or excuse me. If they made her buff be on her own turn and not the enemy's turn, she'd actually be really, really good. But I don't know why they didn't do that. It's kind of weird. Blade out of tier 2. Mr. 8 Cycles himself. He's moving up. Blade's average performance in the last few phases surprised us. He's being commonly used as a dual DPS with Yunli, Fei Xiao, Clara, and Jade. But outside of that, there's even some hypercarry teams using Blade. Blade doesn't do as much damage as he did back in the day, but he makes up for it with frequency of his attacks, which helps breaking in AoE scenarios. Plus he has a follow-up attack, and you know, they love to shill follow-up attacks. So he managed to keep his relevancy in the current break and follow-up meta focused, and we've decided to raise him up a tier because of that. Yeah, I think that's fine, but I feel like if you're going to put Blade up in 1.5, you got to put Jade in at least tier 2. Again, I've said this so many times, Jade is not a niche character. She can be run with any AoE character, and even there, they are showing right now that Blade is not as bad as people think he is. I know the whole, I will dispatch you in 8 cycles, 300k might be unreachable for me. It was a huge meme, but it's not even true. Like, I was playing Jade, Blade, Robin, Fujuan, and it was actually a pretty decent team. I 3-cycle Kafka with it, and that might say, oh, my Fei Xiao, you know, my Fei Xiao 0 cycled. Like, okay, bro, I'm sure that's gonna get you laid. Anyways, Blade is still a decent unit. He's not good, he's not bad. He's just there. And I think having him in 1.5 is fine. Oh, Bronya moving up to tier 1. I knew Bronya had it in her. With the release of Fei Xiao, Bronya has added another solid spot in top tier teams as her portfolio. She has been a top pick for Boot Hill since its release, and now serves as a strong Robin substitute in Fei Xiao's teams, allowing you to use her elsewhere if you don't have her yet. Because of that, we feel she deserves to be in tier 1. I think that's fine. I do agree. I do think her and Sparkle are way closer than people thought they were. And I think especially with Boot Hill, whose best in slot is Bronya, I think that's really good. So I think having her there is absolutely deserved. Good job, Bronya. Pella from 1.5 to 1.2. Yeah. Pella still remains a champion to be a new player. She's very universal, easy to build, and easy to use. So raise her to tier 1, which better showcase how good she is. especially that she's being commonly played with Acron after Jiao Cho release. Yeah, she's basically like, if you don't have Jiao Cho, you run Pella. Even if you do have Jiao Cho, you can run Pella. Pella's good, but she kind of has the same problem that Asta does, is that when you're playing them on a team, they are very rarely ever first pick. For example, in the break team, which people like to cope and say, oh, well, Asta or Pella can be used. Actually, I cleared in like 5 cycles, which, sure, maybe you did. Good for you. But, you know, Ron May can do that in maybe 1 cycle, sometimes 0, which I think is a lot better. And having just the 1-turn break actually feels miserable for me personally. I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, I just hate it. I can't stand having them recover in 1 turn, especially on a break team. And I do want to also talk about the new character, Rappa. So I said she was going to be in Tier 1 in MOC, Tier 0 in Pure Fiction, Tier 1.5 in Apocalypse Shadow. So I was 100% correct. So, you know what I mean? I did make a video talking about why I don't think Rappa was as bad as people are saying she was. And, you know, look, she turned out pretty decent. So check that video out if you want to. And I think this tier list is perfect for her. This is great. It's glad that people are starting to realize that she's actually good, and she's not so horrible and so mid as everyone's trying to make her out to be, which is straight up not true. So I think this is good that she's up there. We can talk about Pure Fiction real quick, because I know they made a few changes. Yeah, she's in Tier 0. Up there, they did remove Ron May down. I was going to make a video about this, but I ended up delaying it because A, I was busy, and B, I didn't think that talking about Lingsha was going to change too much. Turns out it did. So I'm going to discuss a little bit of that right now. So Lingsha in Tier 0 in Pure Fiction, yeah, I think that's fine. She's pretty much AoE. She's like, people like to meme that she's Erudition, so I think that's fine. Ron May, get back in Tier 0. She's like the most used character in that mode. Come on. What are you doing? You can have more than 1 character in T0. You have 3 characters in Tier 0 here. Like, come on, what are you doing? Sparkle, yeah, Sparkle's down there. Jiao Cho's down there. Ron May is the only one who deserves to be with Robin in that. And then, yeah, not much really changed here. Oh, yeah, they wanted to move Jinglu down to Tier 3. And, yeah, that's fine. I'm the biggest Jinglu dick writer. I don't even use her in Pure Fiction. She's not good in Pure Fiction because she's not a Pure Fiction character, and that's fine. You can have multiple characters for different modes. That's fine. And Zila, apparently they wanted to move her up, and same with Fei Xiao, which, you know, sure. You want to do that? Go ahead. And Apocalypse Shadow, too, also, yep, Lingsha is Tier 0, as is Gallagher, which makes sense because they're break characters. Break and follow-up attack are like the most shield things in the game right now, and they made a whole mode dedicated to break, which is Apocalypse Shadow. So having the break sustains and all the break characters up here makes sense. And I do 100% see Rappa moving up sooner or later. So I think that is interesting to point out. Let's see, is there anything I wanted to talk about also? Yeah, Clara's not here. Dude, Clara's not harder than Jinglu, man. Come on, let's be real with ourselves. Let's lay off the copium, all right? Yeah, because you're not also going to tell me that Jinglu, Black Swan, and Kafka are on the same tier as fucking Lynx. Are you serious? Just not true, man. It's not. And another thing I wanted to point out, which some people say was an L take, which I disagree, and I'm going to explain why, which is Boot Hill being in Tier 0. I think Boot Hill should be a Tier 0 character. He is so good. If you watch any Boot Hill clear, this man is absolutely ridiculous. This guy fucking destroyed Aventurine, and he just pretty much kills everything in the game. He's like Firefly if you have to use your brain. But I know a lot of Starlight players don't want to do that, so they think he's mid, but he is not. He is him. He is him. If you know how to use that character, he is ridiculous. And then, again, we're going to talk about Fu Xuan. Because I said this before, I'll say it again. I don't think Fu Xuan is up there anymore. She gets curb stomped by AoE, which is a lot of the endgame example Argentina Venturine bosses. And just like anything that hits like a ton of times or hits very hard, she cannot stand. Chip damage will kill you sooner or later, and that's not a good thing. So I think she should be down here with Luocha, because Luocha, while he doesn't really do too much outside of healing, He's still a very good character. If you have him, you still don't need to get another sustain. And he will never die. It is borderline impossible to die with Luocha. Like, if you have Luocha and you die, you just not build your Luocha well. So I'd suggest building your Luocha better if you're dying with him. And then, yeah, Sparkle, I mentioned in the last video, I don't think Sparkle was tier 0.5, and they dropped her. So that's great. And honestly, I think that's pretty much it. I think a lot of these takes were really bad. Especially the takes about Jinglu. I don't think she's down there, but I could be biased. I definitely, no, I can't. Not I can't be biased. I am biased. She's my favorite fucking character in the game. This makes me sad. Because just the HP just getting higher and higher and higher is ridiculous. Is it ever going to stop? I sure hope it does. But I think I'm going to wrap up the video here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share it to your friends, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.